Hi, blessings. Welcome to today's talk, Astrology Fundamentals. And this is an introduction to evolutionary astrology and the Pluto paradigm. My name is Nikki Lucifera, and my reference for this talk is Jeffrey Wolf Green's book, Pluto and the Evolutionary Journey of the Soul, Volume 1. Jeffrey Wolf Green is the creator of evolutionary astrology, and there's been some different branches breaking off since this practice was created back in the early 80s. I believe that's when Jeffrey Wolf Green started lecturing on this type of approach to astrology. It's a very soul-centered approach, and Pluto correlates to the actual soul in your chart, to your soul's evolution. The soul is this type of immutable form of consciousness that is its own individual identity of source energy that remains intact for lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. And so through Pluto, through these EA teachings, evolutionary astrology, we believe that Pluto is the soul, and all of your past life memories and experiences are all contained within your Pluto placement. And so each lifetime, your soul then also manifests a personality or ego that can best attract in the situations or relationships necessary for your own personal evolution. That's why we never want to transcend the ego, because the ego was actually created for you by your soul. And it makes your human experience so super unique, which is really important because your evolutionary journey is different than anybody else's evolutionary journey. So your personal experiences, your personal lens, and how you perceive reality is actually a really important part of your evolution on Earth and in human form. So each personality that your soul manifests in each lifetime relates directly to whatever the evolutionary necessity is for your soul. So to transcend the ego, you would actually be denying your soul its personal evolution this lifetime. So you need to have that personal reality. You need to have those attachments and experiences. So again, your soul can evolve in a way that's necessary for you, but maybe different than how other people evolve. The soul, through your personality or ego, must experience life in very particular ways. You know, you have a particular family, you have particular children, etc., and that all helps your soul grow and evolve. So source is ever becoming through our souls, and our souls are ever becoming through our egos. Within the soul, within Pluto in your chart, there are two coexisting desires that are dual in nature. So the first desire is to actually separate from existence, to separate from that which created you, or created the soul, which would be to separate from source. Okay, the second desire is to return to that which created you, to return to source. So two dual nature desires, one to separate from source and one to return to source. The interaction of these two apparently polarized or opposing desires actually instigate and create the drama of our personal and both collective evolution. So desire is actually a determining force that dictates the reality of the individual. Okay, so you cannot have power without having desires. You would just be like, just like a soggy wet towel or something. You would just be soft and limp, or you wouldn't be able to go after things or stand up for yourself or take action. So you have to have desires in order to have power. So desires aren't a bad thing. And I know sometimes we're spiritual people are trying to transcend their desire nature. But that too won't actually serve you in the long run, or at least won't serve your evolution. And so the interaction of these coexisting dual desires, it determines what we think we need in our reality. These desires determine what we think we need. And that which we think we need then becomes a foundation for all of the choices that we make. The choices that we make based on our desire nature then leads to the actions that we take, which then leads to our own relative realities. And then action leads to reactions, which lead to more actions, and etc. But it all starts with your desire nature, your soul desires, your Pluto placement. And because of this dual nature of desires, evolution is actually a much longer process, and it takes countless lifetimes to evolve. So we don't have to figure it all out this lifetime, because guess what? None of us are transcending or ascending the earthly plane. We're all coming back next lifetime and the lifetime after that. And we've had hundreds of lifetimes already, maybe thousands of lifetimes, right? And so the evolutionary journey of the soul is to progressively eliminate desires that which separate you from source energy. And so as they are purged and released, the desire to return to source becomes more stronger than the desire to separate from source. The operation of these dual desires are verifiable and also observable, and we can see them and perceive them in our personal realities as well as our collective realities. So separating desires could be examples of, like, I got a new car, I got a new lover, I got a new house, I got a new job promotion, etc. So through these separating desires, we experience a momentary high, from receiving what we desired. But then we soon realize that actually, I need something else now. Actually, there must be something more, because I only felt fulfilled briefly by gaining that desire. And now that feeling is gone. And so I need to buy something else. I need to have some other desire that I'm going for. And so usually, upon receiving a separating desire, such as a car or something, I'm not saying, we're not supposed to have cars and material things, but usually there's this process of being hyper focused on external things that we think actually fill the well, and they don't, right? So those are separating desires. They don't actually give us meaning or true security. That's an illusion. And so we achieve or receive a separating desire, and we get a momentary high, and then we have to go after another desire. So the pattern is that usually we keep going after each separating desire to another separating desire to another separating desire. So over countless lifetimes and countless centuries of incarnations, we begin to exhaust or purge out these separating desires, or eliminate these separating desires, because we realize throughout many, many lifetimes that, again, all of that stuff doesn't actually give your life meaning. Yes, you need to have some of those things so that you can survive on Earth and the elements, but they don't actually give you what you are truly searching for from a soul level. And so, as you eliminate these separating desires throughout many lifetimes, the desire to know that which created you now becomes stronger and stronger. And ultimately, one day, we can all hope that that would be the only desire that we have left in our consciousness, is to return to source, God, Goddess within. And so, always constantly searching for that something more outside of us will happen until we get to the point that we realize that that something more that we're searching for throughout all of these lifetimes is actually source creator, and we can only unearth that from within our own souls or through connecting to nature to connect to self. So Pluto's sign and house in your chart describes a general vibration for you, or the person's chart that you're reading. And it also represents their evolutionary past, their past desires, their beliefs, their perceptions, and how they orient to their own reality. So Pluto is this huge evolutionary force in your chart. It's your evolutionary theme throughout multiple lifetimes. And then the Pluto polarity point, this is an evolutionary astrology thing that we're using these polarity points in a lot of different transits and aspects to help neutralize the energy or integrate the energy. And so in evolutionary astrology, we need to shift our awareness, or we learn to shift our awareness to the Pluto polarity point, the exact point that is opposite from your Pluto placement. And that Pluto polarity point actually reflects your soul's evolutionary desire, your soul's evolutionary intent this lifetime. So it's the opposite sign and the opposite house to the exact degree, which is the Pluto polarity point. So Pluto's placement, the actual placement in your chart, represents your past lives, your evolutionary past desires, beliefs, perceptions, complexes, insecurities, and how you orient to your reality. The Pluto polarity point, the opposite point in degree, represents your soul's evolutionary desire, evolutionary intent, and the cause behind incarnating this lifetime. So it doesn't matter if you're aware or conscious of your soul desires or not, because the soul, not the ego, is the ultimate causal factor or determining force behind each incarnation. So your soul lessons are going to occur eventually, one way or the other, through necessity. So if you're conscious of your evolutionary intentions of your soul this lifetime, then you can work with this energy by cooperating and not resisting. And so where Pluto is in your chart, that's where there is this desire to separate from source or to maintain the past. That's where the Pluto placement is. That's where you're going to find your separating desires. The Pluto polarity point, that is actually, it promotes focusing on the future, and that is the return to source, is to go to the future, is to go to the Pluto polarity point, not to maintain the same and keep expressing those same complexes and insecurities, through the Pluto placement, but rather to go to the Pluto polarity point and focus on the future, to return to source. And so our soul lessons or evolutionary intention is actually in the Pluto polarity point rather than the natal placement. So the Pluto polarity point is unfamiliar, it's uncharted, it's unknowable. So it usually feels pretty uncomfortable, similar to the North Node maybe in the chart. So the unknown, by leaning into the unknown, it directly challenges what is known. And therefore, it challenges your security on the very deepest level or at the soul level. So the natal placement of the Pluto reflects our area of natural gravitation for what is known and for security. And therefore, there's tremendous power there. And Pluto creates this really compelling force to maintain that one area of your life for security in this familiar way of operating the same lifetime after lifetime. This compelling force of Pluto, it can be obsessive, neurotic, compulsive. If you are resisting the future, if you are resisting the return to source or the unknown is great enough, you'll have a lot of those issues around obsessions and compulsion to try to stay the same. Because the soul intention is to actually grow this lifetime, eventually you'll experience some type of cataclysmic growth because of the resistance to the future or to evolution or to what is unknown. If you're not resisting the unknown and the growth and the evolution, then growth will occur at a more uniform type of way, progressively and slowly throughout your life. So we can look at this as natural evolution, like a child goes through phases and cycles from, being a baby to a toddler to eventually becoming a teen and an adult, right? Those are natural phases of evolution that happen progressively throughout time. Cataclysmic growth is when you're resisting your soul's evolutionary intention and your soul shows up on the scene and creates some type of bad situation. It appears to be a bad situation that forces you to evolve. So some type of trauma or loss happens, and you're forced to go into what is unknown. You're forced to move into the future now because your soul said, hey, you're resisting this too much, and now I'm going to have to force you to grow. And so because Pluto or the soul operates at an unconscious level, most of the time, most people are unaware of their deepest, truest motivations and desires. So when they're resisting the change and they're unaware of their true motivations and desires, they'll continue to repeat those same lessons over and over and over again, attracting in the same type of people and the same type of situations and experiences. For the person to become more growth oriented and freer, they need to shift their consciousness to the Pluto polarity point. And as change begins to occur, they will automatically go through a process of redefining and redefinition and growth that will ultimately affect the natal placement, right? So by focusing on the Pluto polarity point, in a way, you're almost changing the past a little bit. You're transforming it. You're going to find the gold. So the person will start to express that Pluto placement differently, and they'll be reborn at a new level by experiencing death of the old. But again, you don't get that death of the old by continuing to focus on the Pluto placement. You have to go to the Pluto polarity point. And again, if you're resisting the change, if you're resisting going into the unknown, then some type of cataclysmic event could manifest. And when we're looking at Pluto, this can be death of somebody, death of a loved one, death of a partner. This can be, sudden loss, sudden upheaval, or massive betrayal in some way. And so when we're looking at the chart, Earth is in the center, right? So that would be the midpoint between the Pluto placement and the Pluto polarity point. So ultimately, we are on Earth to resolve polarities. So it's not like you just continue to focus on your Pluto polarity point throughout your whole life and abandon the actual natal placement, but it's through actually focusing on the polarity point that you can actually resolve and heal a lot of those complexes and obsessions and neuroses and insecurities of the placement. It balances out the intensity by focusing on the polarity point, and ultimately you're going to come back to the placement later and realize, whoa, this department of my life has actually completely changed. And then you'll find the balance. You'll be centered on Earth, and you can continue to make sure that you're balancing out the Pluto polarity point as well as the Pluto placement. So when you're working with clients and looking at charts, most likely you're going to see Pluto placement in either Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, or Sagittarius, right? Because Pluto has a long transit. I think it's 248 years all the way around the zodiac. So let's just touch on these placements quickly here. I'm not going to go too far into each placement. But so if you have a client that has Pluto in Leo, they would have been born from 1939 to 1957. So when we look at the Leo archetype and Pluto in Leo, this is the people that are all about me. It's me, 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 me. So this is the me generation. They are focused on individualization. They're very creative. They've worked in their past lifetimes to develop their creative potential. And they can be, pretty self-focused. Then we have the Pluto in Virgo generation. These would be the souls that incarnated from 1957 to 1972. These are the healers, the yoga teachers, the environmentalists, the doctors, the nurses, the hard workers that want to fix things and get better and better. And I have also heard of this generation as really being the reincarnation of the witches that were burned on the stake during the burning times, because Pluto and Virgo generation, they have incarnated with such immense guilt and this need to atone. So they feel tainted, and perhaps they don't even understand why they feel this energy, but it's because possibly that they were persecuted religiously, for religious reasons in past lives. And then we have the Pluto in Libra generation. These are the souls that incarnated from 1972 to 1984. So this is those that are really concerned with justice. These could be lawyers and mediators fighting for social justice and really want to have a beautiful planet and want to clean up the rivers and the streams and even clean up relationships and partnerships and find harmony, peace, and justice and equality. And interestingly enough, as these souls were incarnating, this was a big shift in the divorce rate here, during that time frame, where we saw a lot more people getting divorced. So Pluto and Libra people are really learning how to enter into relationship as an equal. And then we have the Scorpio generation. These are the souls that incarnated from 1984 to 1996. Pluto and Scorpio souls, these are deep, powerful, and intense people. They're the shamans, the witches, the alchemists, really here to dig deep this lifetime and get to the bottom of all of the shit. So these are the souls that are here to clean the shit, to clean up the BS, to clear it out. And they're dealing with complexes around mistrust, loss, betrayal, abandonment by society or their parents. And they can have a really powerful addiction to intensity. Then we have the Pluto and Sagittarius souls. So we're getting into some of the younger generations now. These are the souls that incarnated from 1996 to 2008. So Pluto and Sag souls, these are the gurus, the wisdom keepers. These are the natural teachers connected to nature, earth and sky, and natural laws. These are our philosophers coming in and teaching their parents and the elders, about universal principles and truth. So not so much, man-made religion here, but we see nature-based religions. True spirituality as reflected back through earth and sky and the natural cycles. And one more generation, these are perhaps your children, the Pluto and Capricorn soul. So Pluto is in Capricorn now, and it's been in Capricorn since 2008. So any soul born from 2008 to 2024 has Pluto in Capricorn. And these souls are really going to shift the gender identity. There's a big gender revolution. And so when we look at Capricorn Cancer, that does rule gender identity. And so there's a massive shift happening in our consciousness right now. And so this is, the relationship to how a soul connects to the body and how it identifies in the body. And our souls, switch off genders throughout our different lifetimes, depending on what gender would best lead to your necessary evolution, right? So maybe you were in male form last lifetime, but this lifetime your soul needs to incarnate in female form, and that actually serves your evolutionary journey more so than being in male form this lifetime. Or maybe you incarnated as a non-binary, and that's your path to evolution this lifetime. And so there's this focus on some type of readjustment with how we identify or manage the body, our sexuality, as well as authority, right and wrong, and laws. And so that's the main Pluto generations that you will see as you're looking at your charts and clients' charts. And then again, you would be, guiding yourself and clients to really focus on that Pluto polarity point for a while to heal those complexes and insecurities at the placement. So if they have, you know, Pluto in Libra, for example, and they're dealing with relationship karma this lifetime, they're going to need to focus on the polarity point in Aries, right? They're going to have to figure out the self first. They're going to have to learn how to stand on their own 2 feet so they can maybe break past life patterns of codependency and inequality in relationship. And briefly, let's talk about Pluto transits. Pluto transits are literally the most intense transits that you will have, and they're often once in a lifetime transits because, again, Pluto is a slow moving outer planet and the most powerful planet. So Pluto works by transit in like 4 different ways. And so the first way Pluto, remember, Pluto is making you evolve. Okay, so you have a Pluto transit, you better expect that you're going to go through permanent change, and these transits last for about 5 years. So they're long transits. And so the first way Pluto makes you evolve during a transit is that If you're really working with Pluto, you may just become aware of your past life talents and capacities and abilities that you've already been developing, and you can awaken them in a really beautiful, positive, kind of blossoming type of way because you have no resistance. You're surrendering to the power of your soul. And then, something just awakens from these unconscious deep realms within your psychology, and you realize you have this talent or gift within you. The second way Pluto can make you change and evolve during a transit is um, Pluto will actually work through other people and through our relationships. So, somebody will come into your life and they impact you in some kind of huge and powerful and transformative way, whether it's for good or bad. You're never the same after that relationship. This experience with a partner can be completely ecstatic or really, really painful. And the third way that Pluto can change you during transit is to bring into your reality or to create situations of stagnation where you feel completely suffocated. And it's like you're going to literally die if you stay in this situation one more day. You cannot take this job any longer. You can't take your husband any longer, or whatever it is, it's got to go. You can't take it one more day. There's little resistance, but you now have to make the change. You have to purge it all out and go through the process. And then the fourth way is Pluto will actually just remove the limitation, remove the block, whatever it is that's distracting you or inhibiting your evolution. Pluto will just take it away. Pluto doesn't care if it's your eye, your arm, your leg, your job, your house, your mother, your partner, which sounds absolutely terrible. Um, but Pluto will just take it away, right? So if you're really resisting change, Pluto will just remove that block. And this is when life can feel really, really cruel, and you can just feel totally abandoned by source. Um, yeah. And so when we are working with Pluto transits, excuse me, it may appear that, the lessons are happening to wherever the transit is happening in your chart in that department of your life. But ultimately, the long term evolution and growth will manifest through the actual natal placement. Okay, so by working with your transit consciously, you will actually be also evolving that natal placement. Um, so that is my talk on Pluto. Yeah, I've been having Pluto transits personally since 2019, and I can tell you my personal experience is I've had to face death repeatedly within my own psychology in different ways. um, and for me, it's really like understanding that by going through these really intense death and rebirth situations, I actually have experienced a lot more depth in my reality, in my human experience, and a lot more meaning. I've realized what really matters to me, what's most important to me through this experience. And it's been a lot of relationship work. It's been a lot of family work because of where my transits are happening to my midheaven and to my Venus. Midheaven would be family, Venus would be relationships, and I've gone through it all. Um, and remember what I said is that these are like 5-year long transits. They're really long periods of life that mark you in such a way that you're permanently changed. You're not at all the same person that you were before. And through going through these deep psychological inward periods, I have found way more power. I have found I feel more of what I am made of, um, and also more natural abilities and capacities. So when we're looking at evolution, we never actually mention involution, and involution always happens before the evolution. And so involution is the destruction phase, the death, the crumbling of what was. And so this could be compared to the butterfly in the or the caterpillar in the cocoon, right? So the caterpillar actually becomes liquefied, right? It becomes mush. What it was is completely destroyed. That's the involution process. And before you can evolve, you you get turned to mush. um, After you go through this involution process, you are liquefied and alchemized. Then you become the butterfly. You come out of the cocoon and you have your new wings. And you're like, holy smokes, I'm a new person now. What does this mean for me? And then you continue on your journey. So you can't resist um, that destruction, that death process. You have to let yourself go through it. And I suggest, again, just really surrendering, going inward, spending time alone, and really journaling and documenting what's coming up in your psychology, because you will face the deepest parts of you. You'll have to take a really honest look at yourself, your motivations and your desires, and you'll start to realize that any darkness that is outside of you is actually inside of you. And it doesn't make you a bad person or anything like that. It's coming up to come out so that you can heal and grow. And like I mentioned, we've had so many lifetimes, so many lifetimes. And so if we just look at the age of Pisces, that's been going on for about 2000 years, that's a lot of lifetimes right there. If we go back to the last age of Aquarius, which was about, 25,000 years ago, imagine how many lifetimes that would be. And so you have a lot in your soul, in your psychology, that perhaps is being healed right now, during this great turning of the ages that we're all experiencing. Whether you're having a Pluto transit or not, we're all kind of experiencing a very Plutonic era as Pluto is transiting its own south node in Capricorn, but that's for another discussion. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed my talk on Pluto, and this is just an introductory to evolutionary astrology and the teachings of Jeffrey Wolf Green. Thank you, and blessed be.